So we left off here on the last video and talking about different hormonal therapies for treating prostate cancer. Best thing for these patients are thorough health history, yearly checkups. Remember we said that would start at 45 with a family history and 50 with a non-family history, and may include the prostate-specific antigen, that PSA, and remember that any abnormalities in PSA should be investigated, whether that's from BPH or from prostate cancer. It is not specifically going to diagnose prostate cancer, but can let us know something is wrong with the prostate. Preoperative care, remember, is going to include our pre-procedure teaching. Catheters, patients are most likely to be anxious. After surgery, remember that there'll be a big balloon inside of the, or a catheter inside of the patient, depending on what it is being used for. If it's for CBIs, that means we need a larger catheter, and there'll be a big 30 ml balloon on the end of that to keep it in place, seated at the bottom of the bladder, and that's left in place for 1 to 2 weeks, or until the follow-up appointment, which is usually scheduled in 1 to 2 weeks. The drain, depending on how much drainage is coming out of the surgical site area, can be removed before the patient goes home, or may be, left in place until the follow-up appointment. Very important, we let the patient know that they may experience burning with urination afterwards, but if they start experiencing any obstruction, incontinency, hesitance, anything to indicate an obstruction, any signs or symptoms of fever or infection around the site, to call the physician. Also to perform Kegel exercises to help strengthen the pelvic floor. And this is just, again, a reminder of our general nursing care, because the patient does have a risk of hemorrhaging. Then pre-procedure care would include making sure that there is a PT, INR, PTT, or a coagulation study on the chart, as well as kidney function. We are going to be monitoring those afterwards. For INOs, we're going to talk about CBIs in just a moment. Patient, because anytime the patient's going on general anesthesia and is going to be in the hospital longer than overnight, or at least overnight, everybody gets TED hose and SCDs. Anytime there's an incision, we say no heavy lifting or strenuous activity over 10 pounds, and it does vary based on the physicians, and then no sexual intercourse for 4 to 6 weeks. So what's CBIs? Here's a very large 3-way catheter with a big balloon on the end of it here. So how this goes is that there's the triple lumen catheter, or the 3-way catheter, and one of them is for the irrigant solution, and then the other 2 are just as normal, one to fill up the balloon and one to go into the catheter drainage bag. So remember that we're putting in fluid now into the bladder, and then we are going to be collecting that fluid as well as urine inside of the catheter drainage bag. So we do need to calculate output. So during a shift, 600 mils of one bag of irrigant has infused, and 1500s of the next has also infused. Upon draining the urine bag 3 times during the shift, the nurse measures the volume to be 800 mils, 1050, and 950. What's the client's true urine output? So how we calculate this? First of all, we've got to add how much irrigant has gone in, and we add that up and we see that this much irrigant has infused. And then in the urinary bag, we add up our 1050, 950, and 800, and we see that a total of 2,800 mils emptied fully for the drainage bag. So then we take the 2,800 minus the amount of irrigant, and we are left over with 700 mils. and that would be your urine output for your shift. Okay? Does that make sense? We have to take the amount of irrigant instilled and subtract that from how much we emptied from the bag when we are doing CBIs. If there is no drainage in the catheter, we want to, well, first of all, the CBIs, they're continuous bladder irrigation, so we keep that going, and we want the urine to stay nice, like lemonade pink. But if for some reason it stops, and especially if the patient starts having bladder spasms, we need to irrigate the catheter. And that is done by getting ourselves that irrigant tray with the cath tip syringe, the 60 ml cath tip syringe. We want to use sterile water, and we irrigate by filling the syringe, removing the irrigant part, the irrigant from that port, putting in our irrigant, and then we would, of course, want to, you see how they're kinking off the part that's going down to the drainage bag, and instill 2 full syringes, and we kink that off on the past there because we want the water we're instilling to go up into the bladder, and we have to be sure to instill 2 full syringes before attempting to remove the clots. And this reason for this is so that we don't put our syringe in and right away start sucking, and we can suck on the catheter can get lodged up against the bladder wall and suck on it. Of course, that would cause an abscess or could lead to an abscess or a fissure in the side of the bladder wall, and we don't want that. So instill 2 full syringes before attempting to remove clots. So what's our nursing diagnosis going to be for these individuals with prostate cancer, or especially after prostate cancer, is that they will most likely experience urinary incontinence, sexual dysfunction, may have, when it comes to sexual dysfunction after surgery, may still have or may have empty or dry ejaculations, meaning that the semen ejaculates back up into the bladder and not out. However, they should notify their healthcare provider if there is blood in the ejaculate or if it's painful. May have acute or chronic pain, risk for infection, of course, after any surgery, and then disturbed body image just by having that male organ removed. The rest of this is on testicular cancer. It's all blocked out. Don't worry about that. Again, I'm leaving that for if anyone else wants to use that in the future. So that is prostate cancer.